Hey y'all, welcome back. Today I am getting ready for a holiday party and I want to walk all of you through an elevated party makeup look that is still wearable and approachable and it isn't over the top. Let's get right into this video. I want to give my primer a moment to sink into the skin and set up Hourglass Vanish Airbrush Primer. When I'm doing makeup for a special occasion, whether it's on myself or I'm doing it for someone else, I always like to make sure everything is properly distributed. Taking a pump or however much your product that you're going to use and then really spreading it across the face. That way everything is evenly distributed and everything is going to wear a little bit more cohesively. The reason I opted for the Hourglass Vanish Primer is because it gives a smoothing effect to the skin that's also a little bit more on the satiny side. Going to help things wear a little bit longer and look a little bit smoother. Somehow when I was shaving I cut my nose, so ignore that. So now I'm going to apply a little bit of my eye base. I'm going to use the MAC Painterly Paint Pot. Painterly is a light muted neutral pink. It's not too warm, it's not too cool. What I like about this is it's got enough base pigment to counteract and color correct any discolorations or uneven tone I have on my eyelid. My eyelids are a little bit lighter. They're on the translucent side, so you can see hyperpigmentation, veins. And if we look at this side versus this side now looks more in harmony with the rest of my skin tone, even though I don't have any other makeup on. And this side, you can kind of see it's got like a red purple cast. There are some veins coming through, which are blue and green. I just like to even it out because for a special occasion, we want everything to look very cohesive. If I was doing this step on a client, I would be scraping this product out with a spatula and then applying it with a brush. This is my product. This is my personal Painterly Paint Pot. I use my finger because I like the precision and the control I get with my finger, and I can fill around the topography of my eye area to make sure everything is getting covered. And I always like to wiggle right at the lash root. A lot of times between our lash roots, we will have a little bit of skin there that is always a little bit lighter than everything else. So I just help to neutralize that. That way when I put liner or mascara on, it just looks a little bit more cohesive. Sometimes if I need to, I'll press a little bit more right in this inner corner of my eye where I tend to get a little bit of darkening. On special occasions where I want things to look a little bit more elevated, I like to use something that is tried and true. That is my #1 to Chanel foundation. I wear shade BR12. Sonia G, this is, what is this? This is the Jumbo Base Brush from the Fusion set for what feels like months now. I've really only been using my BK Beauty brushes because I really love them. I've got brushes I would like to review and test out. A lot of people I know and a lot of videos I've watched, people love the Sonia G Fusion series. I bought these last year on Beautylish. For some reason, it just didn't really jump out to me as being any better than my BK Beauty. So today we are going to be using this foundation brush, and so far I'm impressed. If you see me looking off to the side, I have a mirror behind my camera, and that way I'm not holding up a mirror and blocking out the view. I have to say though, this brush is really nice. Do I like this as much as my BK Beauty #101, the contoured foundation? I don't think so. I mean, they're quite similar. This is a little bit more dense. I feel like it helps to push the foundation into the skin. This is also a lot more expensive than the BK Beauty. For everyday makeup, if I'm working on a client and it's someone who wants more of a lightweight makeup look, maybe there's someone who doesn't wear a lot of makeup, I like to use as little foundation as I can. That way things just feel a little bit more harmonious. I like to build up, take my time, and I don't want complete opacity with my foundation. I like to use foundation to even out the skin tone, and then I can go back and use my concealer, and that allows you to cover things. They give you more opacity, and that's what's helpful when covering things like hyperpigmentation and blemishes. I am going to go through and take another full pump. I want coverage here, forehead. I want more coverage here. I'm not going to build up on my nose because that will start looking a little heavy. A little bit on the chin. I'm going to take some right on the front of the cheek, a little bit more right here. I always like to think about looking at the face and imagine it how you want your finished product to look. And when you're building coverage, you can spot treat where you want a little bit more. I said I wasn't going to add more to the nose, or since I have such a little amount left, I'm just going to put some right on the bridge. A lot of your cream and liquid products will start to self-set to a degree. When you spread them out and they start setting, you will get a little bit more coverage if you there and then go back and blend as you need to. Another thing, I might be a little bit further back from the camera than I normally am, but I want to kind of show you how far I like to be from the mirror. Right now, I'm like an arm length and a half away from my mirror. I like to be pretty far away. If you're someone who your eyesight's not the best, that can be be a little bit tricky, but I like to recommend going as far back from your mirror as you can, as that will allow you to kind of see your makeup from the distance most other people will be seeing you. Because if we are really close to the mirror, say you've got your little handheld mirror and you were like this doing your makeup, you are going to overanalyze what you're seeing. And by doing that, you can start making things look a little bit heavy, a little bit cakey, because you're seeing all these little imperfections that no one else will see. And that can make things just start looking a little too heavy. Counter what the goal is to look like you, but enhanced. Because for the most time, from my experience, applying my own makeup, doing makeup on other people, even when we want to look like the best version of ourselves, we want to look polished, we want to look perfected. A lot of times people don't want to look overly makeup-y. They still want to look like them, but the best version of themselves. If you step back from your mirror and you compare it in your mind to what you just were looking at when you were a lot closer, you'll notice that the redness that was on the cheeks, it doesn't look as bad from as far away. Your under eyes, maybe they don't look as dark, they don't look as hollow. That fine line that you had between your eyebrows, maybe up close it looks like the Grand Canyon, but from a conversational distance, you can barely notice it. That is something I always like to tell clients. We still want to do makeup for ourselves. Use the perspective of someone else. Most times, if we think about how we view other people, when we are talking to someone, how often are you talking to a friend and you're like, wow, that wrinkle looks really bad, or wow, you look really red. No, most people don't do that. When it comes to us, a lot of people aren't going to look at us in a conversation and pinpoint every little single flaw. If it's something big, yeah, but for the most part, these little things that we notice, no one else is gonna notice. So here is our foundation all over, and it's applied thinly. We're even, we're not totally perfected because we can go back more and do a little bit of finessing with our concealer. Before I forget, I'm gonna apply a little bit of a lip treatment. That way my lips are hydrated, so when we apply color on top, everything's gonna look very nice and smooth. I'm gonna start with my Kosas Revealer Concealer in the shade 1.5C. And I like to look at my eyes. Where am I the darkest? I'm gonna take a dot here and here, and just a dot here. And I like to add a little bit of a lift to my eye area. So I'm gonna take a dot a little bit higher. I want this to be a little bit softer. To blend my concealer, I'm gonna use my Real Techniques setting brush. This is a lovely brush. You can use this for so many different things. This is great for highlighting. This is great for setting, as the name implies, but it's also great for really helping to thin out concealers. So now I've got my mirror. I'm still not gonna be super up close with this. I'm gonna hold it a little bit further back and I'm gonna look again. Do I want more coverage? I want a little bit more right here, and I'm just gonna take some very fine dots, apply right through here. Yesterday we drove back to Toronto from Virginia, and we did not get home until almost 1 o'clock this morning. A little bit underslept. Today has been a busy day. So maybe my under eye area is not looking the best it can, but we can use a little bit of concealer to help brighten and smooth everything out. I am very happy with how that looks. And then the powder I'm gonna be using is the Pat McGrath Labs Under Eye Blurring Powder. This is shade Light, and I'm gonna use the setting brush. I like to go just around the perimeter and then hold my brush upwards, tap it in, that way some of the product falls in. And I just like to go from the inside corner of my eye, the outside, and I'll start up high next to my lash line, go a row down, go another row down, and then I will buff and whisk it in. IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores Loose Powder. To powder all over, I'm gonna be using my Refer number 25. This is their large powder brush, and I just like to swirl in and then tap over, swirl in, get up any remnants, and then buff it into the skin. Today, the eye I want to be a little bit more smoky, and I want to have more of a mid-tone lip. I want to start adding some color so I can start to gauge how my overall look is going to be. The blush I'm going to be using to start off with is the NARS Powder Blush in the shade Impassioned, and I'm going to be using my Real Techniques. This is the blush brush. I'm going to layer a few different blushes to give dimension. We're just going to start with this one blush from NARS, just to start adding some color. I'm going to keep it a little bit more lifted, work it back into the hairline, pull it into the forehead. Take a little bit more, run right on the forehead, a little bit on the nose. I feel like this added a nice little zhuzh to the skin. Things are feeling a little bit more cohesive. That kiss of color helps us start making things feel more together. For eyes, I've pulled a few of my Sydney Grace eyeshadows. What I want to do is I wanted to pull a few different colors that could either be worn very subtly or be be dialed up to be a little bit more intense. Looking at this all together, if you are familiar with my seasonal color analysis series, summer, so whether that is a light summer, a cool true summer, or a soft muted summer, this is like the perfect array of neutrals for any summer season. And you can really build upon these colors, have whatever type of eye look you want. First shade I'm going to start off with is my matte bone color, which looks like this. This is the shade Drift. Sonia G Worker Pro Brush. We've already powdered the eyes, so this will give you a little bit more slip. I like to create a wide-eyed and bright look. I like to use something that is about a half a shade lighter than the overall skin tone as my eye base, because a lot of times we are going to add a little bit of shimmer, we're going to add some contour and depth to the eye, and it can make the eye area look a little bit darker. By having a light base like this, it will allow you just to create an overall more bright effect. And then with this brush, I like to use the point just to go through and blend. I want something that has a little bit more color because I want to create a gradient, almost like a blushiness to the eyes. We could easily use the blush we used, which was NARS Impassioned, but I want something a little less saturated than that. This is a matte eyeshadow and the shade is called Art and Soul. And I'm going to be using a Goss number 17 brush. I'm going to use this high up in my crease. When I place my brush in, instead of going straight in like this, I like to tilt it up about 45, angle it towards the eyebrow, and blend upwards. When I get towards the inner corner of my eye, instead of following it into the bridge, I will pull into the front of the eyebrow. That's just going to help to lift the front of the eye and just create this really large eye effect. And when I get to my outer corner, I'll just do little circles and kind of pull it into the tail of the eyebrow. The green in my eyes is starting to pop, look a little bit more sparkly. The eyes are looking big, awake, and bright. Now we're gonna go a shade darker to start adding depth. I'm gonna keep using the Goss number 17, and I'm gonna use this color from Sydney Grace. This is also a matte, and it's called Speedway. Instead of going with my brush at a 45-degree angle like we did the last shade, I'm gonna go straight in. We are going light hand, little circles, starting at the outside corner. We're gonna go just two before the point where we lifted that pinky shade and brought it in. This should be right around the inner portion of your iris or the colored part of your eye. We can go back and forth little circles, keeping our brush straight. That will keep this color lower on the lid than our pinky shade. And we can do a mix if you want to of back and forth windshield wipers, little circle buffing motions. And what we're doing is we're just creating a gradient. So you can see here, it's pushing back the heaviness of the hood of the eye. We're just creating a gradient. We are contouring our eyes, make things look a little bit bigger and brighter, which is something I really love doing any time of the year, but especially here at the holiday season. There's just something about a large eye with a pop of color on the cheek and lips that's just very cute. It's very kind of like, I think the TikTok trend is like winter flush or cold flush makeup. It's just very cute and festive, and I feel like I'm gonna pick up a smaller brush. This is the Goss number 18 Grounds from Sydney Grace. I'm gonna pick it up on the very point of this brush. I'm using the mirror in this palette. I have it down below me so that way I can tilt my chin up, look down, and right here on this very outer corner where our shadow stops, I'm gonna lightly pull that down. You'll notice we're gonna create a little bit of a wedge shape. It's gonna look really intense, don't worry. And then we're gonna pull over. You want it to go right over the very middle of your pupil. So outer corner to pupil, and you can wiggle back and forth. Looks really, really stark right now, don't worry. We're gonna go back to the previous brush, which is the Goss number 17. We are going to place the point of our brush. You can either leave it straight or you can angle it up at about 45 degrees, and we're gonna start buffing. You can use a little bit more pressure, but not enough to where you're really pressing and splaying the bristles. You just want a little bit more pressure, so that way we can really manipulate and move the shadows. For your lid, if you cover up a little bit, that's okay. You just want to blend, soften your edges, and then when you have a little bit less, you can work it right into your socket. So that way you'll have a little bit more of a shape like this. Before we do this eye, I want to show you how this is going to play in. This is a pressed pigment and the shade is called Mystery. It looks like a white, but it's more of like a light pinky purple with a duochrome shift. I'm gonna pick up the Sonia G Worker Pro, and then if you need to, you can tilt your chin up, look down into your mirror, and start right on the inside corner, and drag it across. And what we want to do is, if you have a little brush like this, if you have a little bit of a stiffer brush with a soft roundness, you can even take this brush, place it just under where you applied those crease colors, and work all over, and that will kind of draw your socket line for you to keep everything really easy. And we are just going to overlap that darker shade we applied. That way we have a little bit of a backdrop. I'm going to go back to our socket brush that we've been using to blend our crease, and I'm just going to blend on the perimeter of the mystery shade. Now this is another point. I like to go back as far as I can from my mirror. Take some time to buff and blend, and just really make sure everything's diffused. I'm gonna be using a new mascara. This is the Mude Long Curl Mascara in the shade 02 Brown. Nice little curved spoon-shaped brush. I am gonna apply this just to the root of the lashes and pull through. Ooh, that's pretty. It doesn't give a ton of impact, but it gives the lashes a really pretty fanned out look. Mascara really finished that off nicely. I don't even feel like it needs an eyeliner anymore. That's pretty. Let's move on to the second blush. This is one of my favorites, a drugstore classic. L'Oreal True Match Blush. This is the shade C3-4 Tender Rose. I'm gonna use the Real Techniques blush brush again. I want a little bit of this right on the front of the cheek. Really pop, give it that cool, chilly look. To keep everything from feeling too cool and too kind of cold toned, I'm gonna use a little bit of my Laura Geller Baked Blush-n-Brighten the shade Pink Buttercream. Same brush again. Just a pinch of this. This is a little bit of a more of a warm pink. I'm gonna apply it right here, just on the front of the cheek. Blend back in. And a little bit just over the eye on the brow. That will hold a little bit of warmth my lip color has, and just make this look feel more dimensional. Put a little bit on the nose, a little bit on the chin. Now, since this is a party makeup look, I want to add a little bit of a highlight. And my favorite highlight for holidays is sadly one that was limited edition, but I love it so much. This is from the Holiday 2021 Chantecaille collection. This is the Perle Lumiere highlight, and it had the little bird embossing. I'm gonna use my Refer 04 brush. I've not been able to find a color that is an exact dupe for this shade, but some that are really close. The MAC Extra Dimension Skin Finish in the shade Soft Frost is similar, but that has a little bit more of a blue-purple shift, where this one has a little bit more of a violet pink shift. Another one that's very similar is the Chanel Poudre Lumiere highlighting powder in the shade White Opal, which is another one I love. That one almost has more of a purple to a green shift with a hint of like a rose gold, but very similar. That's a little bit closer to the shade than the MAC one. Only difference is it doesn't have this kind of pinky shift like this shade does. We've got a lot of glow on the cheek, so I'm just gonna take a powder foundation that's a little bit darker than my skin tone. This is the One Size Beauty Turn Up the Base Versatile Powder Foundation in shade Light 1R. I'm gonna take that Real Technique setting brush, pick up a little bit of this, and I'm gonna run this right under the blusher. Since this is a powder foundation that's just a little bit too dark for my skin tone, it's not gonna look like a dark stripe of bronzer. It's going to just make the skin look more dimensional. I'm even run a little bit right up at the hairline. One of my #1 tips for finishing off your face makeup for a party is using a little bit of a light reflecting powder for buffing or finishing powder. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Charlotte's Genius Magic Powder for under eye and face. This is shade 1 Fair. Tap some out into the lid. Refer number 25 brush, and we are just going to stipple all over the face and then pick up whatever's left, buff over. This is just going to add a nice level of like a creamy, soft finish to the skin. Now for safe measure, I like to use a little bit more setting spray. I'm gonna cover my eye so my mascara doesn't smudge. Now, we are gonna let this air dry. Don't blot it in, just let it dry down its own. While we wait for that to happen, we can apply our lip color. I'm gonna line and fill my lips with my NYX Line Out Loud lip pencil in the shade Fierce Flirt. I'm gonna use my Chanel Rouge Coco Shine and number 54 Boy. And then I like a little bit of pop, but I don't want anything that's gonna move or migrate. I'm gonna use one of the products I love. This is from the brand Peri Para. This is the Ink Airy Velvet in number 21, which is called Fluffy Peach. And then now that we have everything on, I feel like it needs just a pinch more blush. This is the LOreal Pink Buttercream, but a little bit more right through here. More so on the outer portion of my cheek, and then pull in. Nighttime party, so blush tends to fade fairly quickly. Knowing me and my skin, if I build it up a little too heavy right now, by the time I get there, it will look like a subtle flush on the skin. This is my finished, cool toned holiday party look for a holiday party I'm going to tonight. I really love this, and this is also more of like the perfect kind of like smoky holiday look for any of our cool summer seasons within seasonal color analysis. So if you are a light summer, this is gonna be like a cool smoky eye. If you are more of a soft or muted summer, this is gonna be foggy purple eye. And then if you are a cool or true summer, this is a look that you could easily wear daytime, nighttime. This would be like your all occasion, if you want a little bit of extra zhuzh to your makeup look kind of look. Here is the look. All the products I use will be listed in the description box down along with the tools, and they will be on my website as well. If you found today's video helpful and enjoyable, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care of yourself wherever it is you are in the world, and I will talk to you later. Happy holidays, y'all. Bye.